again, everybody. Dr. Glenn with Infinite Wellness. We're back again with another one of our question and answer series. We will have some other stuff back to some of our meet and greet, but for now we're doing some question and answers. And today's a good one. It's a little bit more on my strong points from some of my undergraduate work in genetics. And so we're going to get into a question for it. If you like the video, please subscribe and please ask questions. We'd love for you to be able to get the answers you're looking for. If there's something you don't understand or something that's not quite clear to you, please feel free to ask.
All right, so today it says, how much does my genetics play a role in my overall health?
In overall health. Interesting. So we'll start with trying to define genetics. Genetics has become this kind of field of mystery somewhat. A lot of people think of genetics as us being very varied, one from another, person to person. And to a degree, that's a little bit true. But as a whole, it is not. When we look at overall genetics, we're all classified into the same kingdom, phylum, species, all the way down, species. And that is human. So as a whole, our genetics of the entire makeup that we have, most of y'all have heard of 23andMe, right? So you're familiar with the whole 46 chromosomal pairs, 23 actual dual pairs of chromosomes. Y'all have heard of all this. We're pretty close to the same. As a human species, our genetics are very, very similar. So mine to yours, yours to mine. But there are minor, in comparison to how much genetic material there is, minor differences. And we can talk about those. It's a big fancy thing called difference in phenotypes. Genotypically, we're the same, human to human. Phenotypically, we are different. Brown versus blonde hair, or red versus brown hair, or black hair, eye color. Skin pigmentation. And then, of course, the big one, male, female. And yes, that is genetic. Full degree, okay? I know that's been blurred in the recent past here. We kind of like to taunt the line of this and that being male or female is a difference in that actual genetic trait. So phenotypically, we have small differences, yet we're all still human. So when we break this into medicine, it's becoming more of a trying to break down genetics into each of its little tiny classifications known as alleles. Alleles are little markers all throughout those two chromosomes I was talking about, the 23. And so, or 46, excuse me, but dual strand. So really what we're looking at here is how much effect do these alleles really have on us, technologically speaking. So if we look at familial inheritance, when we start talking about what did I inherit from my family, we can look at certain things that we know are inherited based off of a change in those actual alleles, numbers and patterns. I won't get too specific into this. It's stuff that you can take a look at. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask me. But when it comes down to this, it's pretty much whether or not we just have predispositions based off of the code we got from our parents versus an actual genetic inheritance. Now, there are genetically inherited conditions. We know about these. Down syndrome, trisomy 21. There is on the 21st of these 23 different chromosomal pairs, we see a deviation in the number, and that produces a specific effect. We see that in the child. We're beginning to see differences in the way that the child actually grows, develops, etc. Other things that we like to attribute to genetics, i.e. that got passed down, are simple things like obesity or type 2 diabetes or even genetic heart variants. So what I think we need to I would like to put out there is when asked about how much of my actual health is based off of my genetics, it's quite little. We do have predispositions from our parents. Are there defects like small heart defects? Are there defects in our insulin production? Sure, but these do not guarantee that we will have a certain condition. Whereas like Down syndrome, trisomy 21, you will have Down syndrome. So there's a variance there. And our overall health is still under our control. That's what I like to tell people. You still have control. You do not have to be a type 1 diabetic if all your parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, if all of them had type 2 diabetes, Are you destined to have it? Are you genetically encoded for it? And the answer is no, you are not. There is no genetic coding for you to be a type 2 diabetic. Now, like I said, you can have families that have difficulties. And oftentimes these aren't even genetic, they're familial. We grow up eating the same things and with the same lifestyles and with all the things that make diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, more prominent. Now, type 1 diabetes, that would also be a genetic issue. You were born with the incapability of creating insulin. Big difference. But if you were not type 1 diabetic, where you were born this way, and it became a factor early life, then you are not born with a guaranteed diabetic condition. You were born with okay, I've got to work. And it becomes complicated. And we don't like to say that, like that's too much. Oh, well, I got to work harder than the next person. Well, yes, you very well might. If you have a very high predisposition, if you have a lifestyle dedicated towards, I could end up with things like type 2 diabetes, obesity, issues, then you're following a pattern. You're not genetically encoded for this, but you are following a pattern that has been laid down for quite some time. And breaking patterns is hard. I'm not going to say that it's not, but it is not, as far as health goes, it is not, okay, I'm going to have this because my parents had it. So genetics only plays a small role to a degree. It does make it harder for some than others. Some have to work a little more at certain things. If your parents had heart conditions, if you have a long history of cancer, that's why we still ask about these things. If there's diabetes, high cholesterol, cholesteremia, that's becoming another topic of a lot of research. Did I inherit high cholesterol? Well, if you weren't born with it, I'm going to say no. Again, predisposition, not genetic coding. So there's a lot of stuff there that kind of goes into all of that. But when it comes to health, it's still in your hands. And so, yeah, you may have to work a little harder if you know you have all these family traits. In my case, I tell people, I work hard on all of them because I'm adopted and I have no idea my family traits. I don't know my birth parents. So when not knowing that medical history, when that's not available to you, or if all your chart says like mine did when I was adopted, no known conditions, familial conditions, then we don't know. So it's really all about what can we do on a regular basis to stay healthy anyway. We all have that fight, even if we know our history. If you know it, it's actually a little easier. You know what to concentrate on. If it's not, well, you pretty much got to concentrate on everything. And that's really the goal here, is to be so healthy that things like predispositions to inherited like conditions can be overcome. And that can be done pretty much just with the way you handle your own health, through diet, through exercise, through all the things that we know make us a healthier human being, whether we take our supplements or we're doing the things that we need to do for our body. So when it comes to genetics, it gets a little complicated when we get into the talk of actually, what is given to you in a code. The coding is a little bit complicated if you really look into it and take it piece by piece by piece, little allele by little allele. But as a whole, we're all human. We're all pretty close to the same outside of a few phenotypic traits like we talked about. And what we're really dealing with here is just predispositions. So when it comes to health, we're still in control. And I think that the great way to do that is to be a little bit more knowledgeable, not only about your history, but about how to stay healthy. What can I do to keep me in the best position not to have to deal with any of these conditions so that I don't follow the same patterns, maybe as my family or people I think I inherited all this from.